Alright guys, this is a video on reloading 9mm. It applies to just about any round, even 40, 45 pistol rounds or rifle rounds. This is 9mm range brass. I started to deprime some of these, and these are the old primers. Common sense, just pick up your brass. If you get some extra, that's fine. Some ranges don't care about you picking up brass, other ones do, but let's go ahead and deprime some. This is a Lee hand press with the quick change bushing. I really love this feature. I'm depriming only right now. This is not a depriming sizer die like most dies are combined, because I don't like to run dirty brass through my dies. This is the shell holder, and it comes with the dies. Go ahead and put the brass in, and that's it. So you just keep putting in brass, squeezing it, and away you go. After you've done, I don't know, about 10 or 20, you can just dump some of the primers out and keep going. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're just finishing up the last of it. This is some of the deprimed brass. Your main thing is you want to make sure the brass is not damaged or cracked. And frankly, I've never really found any bad brass. These are typical head stamps you'll see out on the range. I've used every one of these, and they all seem to work pretty good. Now let's go clean it. Before we clean it, by the way, I wanted to mention, I keep this in my range bag. Most ranges have a broom so you can pile up the brass, and then I sweep it up and put it in a bag. It saves me from having to pick up individual pieces of brass, which get pretty old real fast. This is about 200 rounds of deprimed brass. Let's go clean it. Okay, this is the easy part, really. I use an ultrasonic cleaner. This got this really cheap, less than 30 bucks. It has up to 8-minute timer. Some of these real cheap ones have just a single 3-minute timer. You want at least 8 minutes. Longer the better. Sometimes I'll run really dirty brass more than 8 minutes. I'll run it twice for a total of 16 minutes. I use from the grocery store distilled white vinegar and distilled water, a 50-50 mix, and a little drop of dishwashing soap to break the surface tension. This is actually some used fluid that I've made before, and I just put it in a glass jar and let it settle the gunpowder out. I'll just pour some in here. It's not that it's real expensive, but you know, it keeps working. There's no need to throw it out. And then I'll throw a big handful of brass in there. Again, we deprimed it, and we'll spread it around. Let's get it to the full 480 seconds and start it up. Okay, so it's almost done. 2, 1, 0. And it's finished. Pull it out. Shake off some of the excessive cleaning fluid. And I just rinse it off a little bit. And I'll put in this little bucket here. And you can see it's pretty clean. Dump it out. Give it a little towel dry. Get some of the excess water off of it. And then I'm just going to put it back in this plastic jug here. And then I'll put in this aluminum tray. I'm going to go put it in the oven, like I said, for about 10 minutes, maybe a little longer at 220, just to make sure it's really good and dry. I have another batch in there, and before I leave, I'll get this started and put in some more rounds in this one. Set it to 480 seconds. That's the longest it'll go in one run. We'll just let that run and repeat the process 2 more times, and we'll have all of them clean and dry, ready for reloading. Okay, we're all done cleaning the brass. We got some pretty brass here. Looks good. It's all clean. The pockets are completely clean, which is I really like about ultrasonic cleaning. And now we're going to resize the cases. Now, why would we do that? Here's the barrel out of my Glock 26, and you can see the round slides all the way in until the rim of this case, which is 19 millimeters long, because the Luger or Parabellum is 9 by 19. 9 is the diameter of the bullet, which is 3.55, and 19 millimeters is the length of the case. That seats inside the barrel. We look at some of the brass cases. We just it doesn't quite fit, and the reason for that is once you fire it, there's over 30,000 psi of pressure, all the way up to 38 psi, the maximum pressure allowed. And as the bullet is going out the barrel, the case is already starting to come out, and it slightly expands the back end of this case, and therefore it doesn't conform to the dimensions. Now this one didn't expand as much and slides in pretty nicely. A little bit too large, and this one is really too large. So therefore we're going to go ahead and resize the cases. These dies here from Lee are excellent quality. They're a good value. They're under about 50 bucks. There's 4 of them. I'll explain each one as we go along. The first one is going to be the sizing decapping die. Now, of course, we've already decapped them separately to clean them because that's the way I like to do it. Some people clean it with the old primers in. Again, quick change bushing, set. Now, when you originally get these, you're going to have to set the depth of the die. You'll set it by adjusting the larger nut. This one's fairly easy to set simply because the die is going to go almost all the way down to the case holder. The case holder, by the way, comes with the die, so you don't have to buy that separately. Let's go ahead and resize some cases. And by the way, this is a resizing lubricant. It works pretty well. One way to apply it is to spread a small, thin amount on a plastic plate, and then you can roll the case on and get a little bit of the wax on it. It does help. It doesn't take much wax to lubricate the shell, but you can just put some on there and roll each case in there, and then it somewhat alleviates the pressure to resize the case, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more of these, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, we're just finishing up the last one here. So we've got them all resized. We can go ahead and take out the resizing die, the flare die. Again, a quick bush, quick change bushings. I think they're like $5 for 2, so you can buy 4 of them. It comes with 1, so I have 5 quick change bushings. And now we're ready to flare. Flare is pretty much just the oversizing of the mouth of the case so you can get the bullet in. So let's take one here, a case that's not flared, and try and put the bullet in. You can see the bullet doesn't really want to sit in there. It just wants to flop over. And that's the main reason for flaring the case. So the bullet will seat and you'll be able to press it in straight. That's really key. You don't want to flare too much and you don't want to flare too little. And it's a little bit of an art to set it. You progressively keep flaring it a little bit more at a time. Using calipers, I find the difference between the pre-flare and the post-flare, generally about 6/1000ths of an inch. So right now we're at 0.3725 inches. So let's go ahead and flare it. And this is pretty easy, just like all of this is. Go ahead, flare it. And now the bullet kind of has something to sit in so you can press it home. Obviously we still need to prime it and charge it with powder before we press the bullet in, but we're on our way. So let's go ahead and start flaring these one at a time, and we'll come back in a few minutes. All right, we're just finishing up flaring all these. And normally I have this sitting down in my lap. It's a little easier to do than sitting up on this table to show you. But you can watch TV, do whatever you want, like listen to music while you're flaring the cases. So that's it. The next stage is going to be putting in the primers. Now cleaned, sized, and flared all our brass. It's a good time to check it when it's clean. Look for cracks. You also want to check the length of it. You can measure it with your calipers. I like to just put them all out and look at them and see if there's any oddballs, anything really sticking out, and spot check them. This is the tool for priming I'm using, is a Lee Ergo primer. It's not that expensive. It's about $35, $40. You have to buy a separate case holder. The one that works with the press is different. And these are the primers. And if you get a good deal on them, they're about 3.5 cents a piece. This one's empty. And what you do is you'll take the cover off and put this tray upside down on top of it like this. You'll flip it over and shake it until they're all with the mouth end of the primer up, because that's the part you're going to push into the bottom of the case. So let's go ahead and just do some. They're really quite easy. You have to hold this at a 45-degree angle away from you. Now you're starting to deal with some propellants and explosives. Make sure you never point this in your face, and eye protection is a great idea. So I've loaded one into the chamber, and that's it. It's primed. So let's go ahead and do the rest of these. And then we'll come back in a minute when I finish all the primers. Okay, we're just finishing up, doing the last primer. And now we're ready to go ahead and charge these all with powder and seat the bullets. Be back in a minute. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and start putting powder into the cases. You can see I've got a couple of more items out. I've got a scale, and I've got a lead powder measurer and some powder out. Put the powder in the hopper, and then you'll need to calibrate this where it measures a volume of powder. And once you've calibrated that to a weight, then each time it'll throw out approximately the same amount of powder. These are Rainier bullets or Berry bullets. I buy both of them. They're plated, and the amount of powder that you put into the case is a function of the type of powder you're using, the size of the bullet or the weight. These are 115 grains, and also how deep you seat the bullet. There's a bunch of books how to come up with a formula, but today I'm going to shoot for about 4.5 grains, which is kind of a little bit middle in the road for this powder, these bullets. for a 1.14 OAL overall length, I'm looking at 4.2 to 5.0. So 4.5 is right in the middle. That's what I'm using, and it seems to work really good. All my guns cycle beautifully. It's very accurate, and I don't see any reason to make the bullets go faster. I have measured these through a chronometer, and I'm getting just under 1,200 feet per second, which is a pretty hot round. Let's say 1180, and that's good enough. First, let's go ahead and check it. We'll do a spot check. We'll put one case on this scale, zero it out or tear, and it reads 0. Put the powder in it and put it on the scale, and it's reading 4.52 grains. Perfect, right on the money. You're not going to get it exactly 4.5 every time unless you hand measure it, and that will take a long time to do. I did it that way before I got the powder measure, but once you go this way, you'll never want to do it manually and try and load each one individually by measuring every round. So, be back in a couple of minutes while I put the powder in, but you can see this is going to go pretty quick. Be right back. All right, just finishing up the last case. Like I said, it doesn't take very long at all. I do have powder in there. I don't see any reason to fill it up very high. You know, down here is good enough. And now I'm going to do a little spot check, and I look at all the cases and they look quite even. Now the next step is going to be seating the bullets, and the first step I'm going to do is go ahead and put the bullets in the case, in the flared end of the case as we did before. And you can see the bullet wants to stay in position to give you time to seat it. Be back in a minute here while I go ahead and seat all these bullets in the flared end of the case. And we don't need the powder stuff, so I'll go ahead and put that away. Be right back. Okay, just seating the last of the bullets, and there we go. Now we're going to have to press them in to the final OAL, and again I'm shooting for about 1.14. The maximum is 1.169. That's the max allowed for 9mm, and you'll see them as low as 1.1 for hollow point bullets, which don't have the rounded nose. So you lose a little length there by not having the rounded nose. But there are books, and it's good to start conservative. The deeper you seat it, the higher the pressure. If you don't seat it deep enough, then you may have a feed problem with your gun. So the last thing we're going to do here is or second to last thing, is seat it. Again, quick change bushing, really gotta love it. And this is just a matter of putting the bullet in and seating it. And that's it. You can do a little spot check, make sure it rolls straight. This rolls perfectly straight, which is good. And then pull your calipers out, zero it out, and let's measure the overall length. 1.138. 2 thousandths under. Not a big deal. It's close enough. To readjust it, I'd have to break this nut loose and back off a little bit on the die, and I mean a little bit, and then re-lock it in with the nut. It's not far enough off for me to worry about it. So we're just going to go ahead and seat all these. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes here while I get these bullets seated. All right, So we're just finishing up seating the last of the bullets. And I pulled out the second tray, taking the ones that are unseated and putting them into the other tray that are seated, just so you don't get confused. And you can see, you look, make sure they're all seated, and it looks good. So we'll put these over here, put these here, and now we're going to crimp. And crimping is kind of misunderstood. There are some bullets like 38 specials that require you to crimp. The bullet has a groove around it, and the case gets crimped into it. That's called a cantilure. But for the 9mm, it's really just a matter of making sure the case is flush or parallel with the bullet. There's no residual flare remaining. Now, the bullet seating die is also a tapered flare die, and you can do it in one process, but sometimes cases are different lengths, and you might start crimping before the bullet's fully seated, or you might not crimp enough. So a lot of people like to do a separate crimp stage, and I'll show you why. It's probably not a bad idea. Again, the quick change bushing is really great. If we take out one of the bullets we just seated and zero out our calipers and measure it, we can see this bullet is 0.379.38. That's the maximum diameter the case should be at this area. The spec in inches, it's 0.3799. So this is pretty much okay as it is. But let's go ahead and crimp it. And it's very hard to tell, but it puts just a slight mark along the edge of the case, showing where the tapered die, crimp die, started to engage the case. And now we'll go ahead and measure it again. And it's 0.378 or 3775. So there you go. That's why you crimp. It's not that difficult. And we're pretty much done with these. We'll just go through and crimp the rest of them. I hope you enjoyed watching. Again, get all the information you can for the bullet manufacturer, powder manufacturer, reloading manuals. Lee dies come with great instructions. The press comes with great instructions. And play with it. You're not going to go real fast at first. Obviously, I've had this stuff set up and I've reloaded, 1,000 or thousands of rounds. And it's really not that difficult. It takes a little attention to detail. And we're pretty much done. So, as I said, don't drink and reload, but I'm pretty much done reloading, and it's time to enjoy a beer. Thanks for watching. Have fun reloading. It's a good addition to your hobby, and it actually does save money and gives you pretty much unlimited availability. Now, I do want to point out, you need some way to store your bullets, and cases like this are really great for storing your bullets. And this will hold 100, really easy to bring to the range. Or when you're at the range, pick up some used boxes. A lot of people throw these out, and they have the bullet holder inside. So maybe do a little trash diving and get some cases, because once you reload, you need to store them, and it's not good just to throw them in a baggie or something. That's not really a great way to carry your bullets. So anyway, have a great one, and thanks for watching.